Okay, so Wavelength's a 3-minute animation, and it's inspired by the artwork of Holly Warburton, who I was very lucky to work with. And I wrote some words that mean something to me, and she interpreted them in her own way. And we also got an amazing composer called Jack Ledger-Dales to write a very mesmerising score for us. So it's a meditation on love and loss, told through animation, words and music.
Now, there's a recurring theme in the work that we're familiar with at Cine Bijou. So Shouting at the Sea, there's definitely the theme of loss there, and then trying to reconnect and find that connection. And then there's that in Wavelength as well. Is that something you find that's followed you much in life, and that you feel there's much to tell on film, that kind of story?
I think that, the one thing that's certain in life is death and taxes. And I feel like if we're going to make a film about anything, then that's going to resonate with everybody, it's probably not going to be about taxes. So to make a film about loss is to create something that I think is quite universal. And we all deal with it in our different ways, but for me, it's a theme that comes back over and over again, because how we all deal with grief, I think, is very interesting. We deal with it in very different ways. So to be able to explore that is a real great privilege to do that on film.
Absolutely. And two things I noticed about the animation that featured in the film is, one, there was the use of watercolours, and two was the very vibrant, bright watercolours. So you're dealing with a very, very heavy subject that people either shy away from or get overwhelmed by, which is grief. Yet there was a choice there to go for a very bright, hopeful visual and cinematography. Was that on purpose, or what was the thinking behind using that particular feel and look?
So the palette, the director, Kate Oster, who's my colleague, worked very closely with Holly, who's the animator, on the palette. So it's a very deliberate choice. It starts off with blues, and actually it's quite interesting because the blues are about love's beginnings, which we normally associate with love's ends. And then at the point at which the character loses their partner, the colours become very vibrant, very rich, oranges and so on. And so by the end, hopefully you're uplifted, even though it's a story ultimately about loss. The last frame is just orange, and it's quite beautiful, I think, and you're just left with a moment of peace, hopefully.
One thing I noticed in the Q&A that we just come out of is that, yes, these are very, very heavy and sometimes dark subjects generally, and yours, like we said, is a very intense subject. Yet there's hope at the end of it. There was Shouting at the Sea. Like there was a reconnection with the past and a sort of a closure and resolution of things. And do you see that there is hope and resolution and closure in Wavelength?
Oh, 100%. I think that the one thing that I always try to explore with all my writing isn't resolution, but closure, is acceptance. Because I think in real life, real stories don't end with resolution. They end with an acceptance. We learn to accept our loved ones have moved on, or we learn to accept other types of grief, whether it's a breakdown in a relationship or loss of a job and so on. So those big stories need to end with something, and I don't want people to go off into the sunset together, but I do want something that brings about a feeling of acceptance.
Well, you say you don't want... There is no walking off into the sunset, but there is a little bit, isn't there? Because, yes, there is closure, but the story kind of goes on, doesn't it? It takes a different route.
From that point of view, definitely, that's true. I mean, I think the walking off to the sunset is the way of solving the problem of a film when obviously life goes on. And I think, so to a certain extent, that is true. I think all of the films end with something like that. There's a moment that you know that these people's lives are going to continue.
So one final question then. As we mentioned before, this is the second film to feature at HollyShorts. Shouting at the Sea screened in LA, and Wavelength is at the second HollyShorts London Film Festival. How do you feel to be featured twice at such a prestigious event?
I love HollyShorts, can I say. We had the most amazing experience in LA last year, me and Amelia, my wife, who works on all these films with me. To be part of HollyShorts London, the second event, is fantastic, and the quality of the films HollyShorts is second to none. I mean, I always leave every block completely inspired and totally in awe of the filmmaking talent that exists throughout the world.